Psychology, as a discipline, has undergone a profound transformation since its inception, evolving from philosophical musings to a rigorous scientific field that delves deep into the complexities of human behavior and mental processes. The journey of psychology is a testament to humanity's enduring quest to understand the mind, consciousness, and the intricate workings of the human psyche. This evolution reflects not only changes in theoretical perspectives, but also advancements in research methodologies, technological innovations, and cultural shifts that have shaped the direction of psychological inquiry over centuries. The roots of psychology can be traced back to ancient civilizations, where philosophers like Plato and Aristotle in Greece pondered questions about the mind, knowledge, and human nature. Plato introduced the concept of the psyche as the essence of life, while Aristotle's empirical observations laid the groundwork for future scientific approaches. In the East, philosophers like Confucius and Buddha also explored human behavior and thought, emphasizing morality, self-control, and the nature of suffering. However, during these early times, psychology remained intertwined with philosophy and lacked empirical methods to test theories about the mind. The Renaissance period sparked a renewed interest in humanism and the study of individual experience, leading to the gradual emergence of psychology as a distinct discipline. Thinkers like René Descartes proposed the idea of dualism, separating the mind and body, which influenced subsequent debates on the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world. His famous dictum, cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, highlighted the centrality of thought in human existence. The Enlightenment further propelled scientific inquiry, emphasizing reason and empirical evidence. Pioneers like John Locke and David Hume advocated for empiricism, asserting that knowledge arises from sensory experiences. These philosophical foundations set the stage for psychology to adopt scientific methods in studying the mind. The 19th century marked a significant turning point with the establishment of psychology as an independent scientific discipline. Wilhelm Wundt, often referred to as the father of experimental psychology, founded the first psychology laboratory at the University of Leipzig in 1879. Wundt aimed to study the structures of consciousness through introspection, a method where trained observers reported their subjective experiences in response to stimuli. This approach, known as structuralism, sought to break down mental processes into their most basic elements, akin to how chemists analyzed matter. Wundt's work legitimized psychology as a science distinct from philosophy and physiology, emphasizing measurement, experimentation, and systematic observation. While structuralism focused on the components of consciousness, a new perspective emerged in the United States known as functionalism. William James, a prominent American psychologist and philosopher, criticized structuralism's emphasis on mental components, advocating instead for understanding the functions of the mind and adapting to the environment. His seminal work, The Principles of Psychology, published in 1890, explored a wide array of topics, including consciousness, emotion, habit, and free will. James introduced concepts like the stream of consciousness, emphasizing the fluid and continuous nature of mental activity. Functionalism broadened the scope of psychology to include practical applications and influenced areas such as education, mental testing, and industrial psychology. At the turn of the 20th century, Sigmund Freud introduced psychoanalysis, revolutionizing the understanding of the unconscious mind. Freud posited that unconscious desires, particularly sexual and aggressive instincts, significantly influence behavior and mental disorders. His theories on the ID, ego, and superego provided a framework for understanding personality development and internal conflicts. Techniques like free association and dream analysis aim to uncover repressed thoughts affecting mental health. Although Freud's emphasis on sexuality and his untestable hypotheses faced criticism, his work profoundly impacted psychotherapy and spurred interest in exploring the depths of the human psyche. Concurrently, behaviorism emerged as a dominant school of thought, particularly in the United States. John B. Watson advocated for a focus on observable behavior rather than internal mental states, arguing that psychology should be an objective science. His famous Little Albert experiment demonstrated that emotional responses could be conditioned, suggesting that behavior is learned through interactions with the environment. B.F. Skinner later expanded on behaviorism with his work on operant conditioning, exploring how reinforcement and punishment shape behavior over time. Skinner's experiments with pigeons and rats in controlled environments, known as Skinner boxes, illustrated principles of learning applicable to both animals and humans. Behaviorism's emphasis on empirical methods and observable phenomena contributed to psychology's scientific rigor, but also faced criticism for neglecting mental processes. In Europe, Gestalt psychology offered a contrasting perspective by emphasizing the holistic nature of perception and experience. Max Wertheimer, Wolfgang Kohler, and Kurt Koffka argued that the mind perceives patterns in wholes rather than merely assembling sensory inputs. Gestalt principles, such as figure-ground organization and the laws of proximity, similarity, and closure, explained how individuals organize visual information into meaningful patterns. This approach influenced not only perception studies, but also problem-solving and cognitive psychology, highlighting the importance of context and organization in mental processes. The mid-20th century witnessed the rise of humanistic psychology, which emerged as a response to the determinism of psychoanalysis and behaviorism. Pioneers like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow emphasized human potential, self-actualization, and the intrinsic drive toward personal growth. Rogers developed client-centered therapy, focusing on empathy, unconditional positive regard, and the therapeutic relationship as catalysts for change. Maslow introduced the hierarchy of needs, a motivational theory outlining a progression from basic physiological needs to higher-order psychological needs, culminating in self-actualization. Humanistic psychology stressed the subjective experience and inherent goodness of individuals, influencing counseling, education, and organizational development by promoting holistic well-being and personal fulfillment. The cognitive revolution of the 1950s and 1960s marked a significant shift back to studying internal mental processes. Dissatisfied with behaviorism's limitations, psychologists began exploring how the mind processes information. Cognitive psychology investigated perception, memory, language, problem-solving, and decision-making. Researchers like Jean Piaget studied cognitive development in children, identifying stages such as sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational, each characterized by distinct cognitive abilities. Noam Chomsky's critique of behaviorist explanations for language acquisition highlighted the innate structures of the mind, proposing a universal grammar underlying all human languages. The development of computer technology provided a metaphor for the mind as an information processor, leading to models that conceptualized cognitive functions in terms of input, storage, retrieval, and output. This paradigm shift integrated empirical methods with theoretical models of mental processes, advancing understanding in areas like attention, perception, and memory. Advancements in neuroscience and technology propelled the biological perspective, emphasizing the physiological basis of behavior and cognition. Neuroimaging techniques such as electroencephalography, EEG, magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, and positron emission tomography, PET, allowed scientists to observe brain activity and structures associated with specific mental functions. The biopsychological approach examined how genetics, neurotransmitters, hormones, and brain anatomy influence psychological phenomena. Discoveries about the roles of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine advanced the understanding of mental disorders and led to the development of psychopharmacological treatments for conditions such as depression, schizophrenia, and anxiety disorders. The integration of biology and psychology fostered interdisciplinary fields like cognitive neuroscience and neuropsychology, bridging gaps between mental processes and physiological mechanisms. Social psychology emerged as a vital field, exploring how individuals' thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by others. Landmark studies like Solomon Asch's conformity experiments demonstrated the power of group pressure on individual judgments. Stanley Milgram's obedience studies revealed the extent to which individuals would comply with authority figures, even when actions conflicted with personal morals. Philip Zimbardo's Stanford Prison Experiment highlighted the impact of situational factors and assigned roles on behavior. Social psychologists investigated topics such as attitudes, persuasion, prejudice, interpersonal relationships, and group dynamics, providing insights into social influences on behavior and contributing to understanding phenomena like discrimination, aggression, and altruism. The latter part of the 20th century saw the emergence of the biopsychosocial model, recognizing that biological, psychological, and social factors interact to influence health and behavior. This holistic approach acknowledged that complex human experiences cannot be fully explained by a single perspective. In clinical psychology, this model guided the assessment and treatment of mental disorders, considering genetic predispositions, thought patterns, and environmental stressors. Health psychology applied this framework to understand how lifestyle, behavior, and social conditions affect physical health, promoting interventions that address multiple facets of well-being. Cultural psychology gained prominence, emphasizing the role of culture in shaping psychological processes. Researchers recognized that many psychological theories developed in Western contexts might not universally apply. Cross-cultural studies explored variations in cognition, emotion, development, and behavior across different societies. Cultural psychologists examined how cultural norms, values, and practices influence individual psychology, highlighting the importance of context in understanding human behavior. This perspective encouraged diversity in research samples, cultural competence in practice, and sensitivity to cultural influences in mental health services. Positive psychology emerged in the late 1990s, focusing on strengths, virtues, and factors that contribute to optimal functioning and happiness. Pioneered by Martin Seligman and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, positive psychology shifted attention from pathology to well-being, studying concepts like resilience, flow, a state of complete immersion in an activity, gratitude, and meaning in life. Research in this field explored interventions that enhance life satisfaction and psychological health, influencing practices in education, therapy, and organizational development. Positive psychology aimed to balance the focus on mental illness by promoting factors that allow individuals and communities to thrive. Technological advancements in the 21st century have continued to shape psychology. The proliferation of digital technology and the internet has given rise to cyberpsychology, examining the impact of technology on human behavior and mental processes. Topics such as online identity, virtual relationships, digital addiction, and the effects of social media on self-esteem and socialization are areas of active research. The use of big data analytics and artificial intelligence provides new methods for analyzing behavioral patterns on a large scale. Mobile applications and telepsychology have expanded access to mental health services, enabling remote therapy and support. Contemporary psychology emphasizes evidence-based practice, ensuring that interventions and therapies are grounded in rigorous empirical research. The replication crisis, highlighting difficulties in reproducing research findings, has prompted a push for methodological transparency, open science practices, and improved research designs. Psychologists are adopting pre-registration of studies, data sharing, and collaborative efforts to enhance the reliability and validity of psychological science. This movement aims to strengthen the scientific foundation of psychology and enhance public trust in research findings. The evolution of psychology reflects a dynamic interplay of ideas, research, and societal influences. From its philosophical origins to a diverse and interdisciplinary field, psychology continues to explore the complexities of the human mind and behavior. It addresses critical issues such as mental health, education, social justice, human development, and the impact of technology on society. Psychologists work in various settings, including clinics, schools, corporations, and research institutions, applying psychological principles to improve individual and collective well-being. As psychology moves forward, it embraces integrative approaches, recognizing that human behavior is multifaceted and influenced by biological, psychological, social, and cultural factors. Future directions may include personalized interventions based on genetic and neurobiological profiles, deeper explorations of consciousness and subjective experience, and ethical considerations surrounding artificial intelligence and its influence on human behavior. Psychology's ongoing evolution underscores its relevance and adaptability, reflecting humanity's enduring quest to understand ourselves, enhance well-being, and improve the human condition.